Congratulations! You have won the jackpot. Not the kind of jackpot that arrives with flashing lights, confetti, or a giant check on a television stage. Not the kind that suddenly places millions of dollars into your bank account. No. The jackpot you are receiving is far more valuable. And before you dismiss that as another motivational cliché, stay with me. Because by the end of this story, you may realize that the wealthiest people in the world would trade everything they own for what you already possess. Tonight, somewhere in the world, a billionaire is staring at a ceiling, unable to sleep. A celebrity surrounded by millions of fans feels completely alone. A powerful leader is terrified of losing everything. And while they chase something they believe will finally make them happy, they remain trapped in a race with no finish line. But you have unknowingly received a winning ticket. A jackpot so rare that only a tiny percentage of people ever recognize it before it's too late. The question is not whether you have won. The question is whether you know what you've won. And that changes everything. Because most people spend their entire lives searching for treasure while standing directly on top of it. Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering that someone deposited $100 million into your account. Your heart would race. Your hands would shake. Your entire future would seem different. But here's something strange. Studies have repeatedly shown that after a period of time, many lottery winners return to nearly the same level of happiness they had before winning. Some become more stressed. Some lose relationships. Some even wish they had never won. How is that possible? How can someone receive everything they thought they wanted and still feel empty? Because money is powerful. But money is not the jackpot. The jackpot is something deeper. Something hidden. Something invisible. And most people never learn this secret. Let me tell you a story. Years ago, a man spent decades searching for gold. He crossed mountains. Explored deserts. Risked everything. He sacrificed friendships, comfort, and years of his life. Finally, old and exhausted, he returned home with almost nothing. One day, while digging in the backyard of the house he had ignored for years, his shovel struck something hard. Beneath the ground was a fortune larger than anything he had ever searched for. The treasure had been there the entire time. The tragedy wasn't that he never found it. The tragedy was that he spent most of his life looking everywhere except where it actually existed. Many people are doing the same thing right now. They're chasing the next promotion. The next relationship. The next achievement. The next purchase. The next breakthrough. The next miracle. Always believing happiness exists one step further ahead. Yet the jackpot is already waiting. Hidden in plain sight. Think about this. At some point in the future, someone will own your house. Someone else will drive your car. Someone else will spend your money. Someone else will wear your clothes. Everything physical eventually changes hands. Everything. But there is one thing that remains yours. One thing nobody can buy. One thing nobody can steal. One thing more valuable than every treasure ever discovered. Your time. And that's when the truth begins to hit. The jackpot you received was not money. It was life itself. Every morning you wake up, another deposit arrives. Another 24 hours. Another opportunity. Another chance. Another page in a story nobody else can write. And here's the shocking part. The richest people on earth cannot purchase a single extra second beyond what life allows them. Not one. If a billionaire offered every dollar they owned for one more year with someone they loved, could they guarantee it? No. If a king offered his entire kingdom for one extra day after his final breath, could he buy it? No. Because time is the one currency that makes all humans equal. The moment you're born, the clock starts moving. Every second becomes priceless. And yet most people spend their days as though they have an endless supply. They waste mornings. Delay dreams. Postpone joy. Ignore loved ones. Assume tomorrow is guaranteed. Then one day they discover the jackpot was quietly disappearing all along. But this story goes deeper. Much deeper. Because time is only the beginning. There is another prize hidden inside your winning ticket. A prize even rarer. Your ability to choose. Right now, somewhere in the world, millions of people are trapped by circumstances they cannot control. Yet every day, you make choices. You choose your attitude. You choose your actions. You choose your response to setbacks. You choose whether failure becomes a prison or a lesson. That freedom is priceless. History is filled with people who lost everything except their ability to choose. And many of them still transformed the world. Not because conditions were perfect, but because they understood something powerful. The greatest victories begin inside the mind. Which brings us to another revelation. You are sitting on an invisible fortune. A fortune called potential. Nobody knows exactly what they are capable of. Not even you. Inside every human being exists untapped strength. Untapped creativity. Untapped courage. Untapped resilience. Entire futures waiting to be discovered. Imagine if every possibility hidden inside you suddenly became visible. Imagine seeing every achievement you could accomplish. Every person you could inspire. Every obstacle you could overcome. Every life you could change. The sight would be overwhelming. Because the distance between who you are today and who you could become is enormous. That possibility is part of your jackpot. But most people never cash it in. Why? Because they underestimate themselves. They listen to fear. They listen to doubt. They listen to voices that tell them they're not enough. And slowly, they abandon the treasure buried within. But what if those voices are wrong? What if the version of you waiting in the future is stronger than you ever imagined? What if your greatest chapter hasn't happened yet? What if your biggest breakthrough is closer than you think? Suddenly, life begins to look different. The ordinary day becomes extraordinary. The routine morning becomes an opportunity. The difficult challenge becomes a doorway. The setback becomes preparation. The struggle becomes training. And then another secret appears. One that changes everything. The jackpot is not waiting at the end of the journey. The jackpot is the journey itself. Think about it. When people look back on their lives, what do they treasure most? Rarely the numbers in a bank account. Rarely the expensive possessions. Rarely the trophies. Instead, they remember moments. Conversations. Laughter. Friendships. Family. Adventures. Acts of courage. Unexpected opportunities. Simple memories. The things that truly matter are often the things money cannot purchase. And that's what makes them priceless. Imagine reaching the final chapter of life. Looking back. Seeing every challenge that once seemed impossible. Every fear that once seemed overwhelming. Every obstacle that somehow became part of your story. You would realize something incredible. The difficult moments weren't interruptions. They were chapters. Necessary chapters. Without them, the story would never have become meaningful. This is why some people emerge from hardship stronger than before. They discover treasure hidden inside adversity. Patience. Wisdom. Strength. Perspective. Character. Qualities that cannot be bought. Qualities earned through experience. And suddenly the definition of wealth changes. True wealth is not having everything. True wealth is appreciating what already exists. Because gratitude transforms ordinary moments into extraordinary gifts. A meal becomes a blessing. A conversation becomes a treasure. A sunrise becomes a miracle. A quiet evening becomes unforgettable. The world remains the same. But the way you see it changes. And perception changes reality. Now imagine something shocking. What if you woke up tomorrow with only the things you thanked life for today? What would remain? Would your family still be there? Your friends? Your health? Your opportunities? Your dreams? Your future? It's a powerful question. Because it reveals where attention truly belongs. The jackpot grows when appreciation grows. And that leads us to perhaps the most important revelation of all. You matter more than you realize. There are people whose lives have been changed because you exist. Maybe they never told you. Maybe they never will. But your presence has influenced countless moments. A conversation. A smile. A kind gesture. A word of encouragement. A decision. A memory. The ripple effect of a single life is impossible to measure. Think about the people who changed your life. Many probably had no idea how much impact they had. The same is true for you. Your story reaches further than you know. Your actions travel farther than you can see. Your influence continues long after moments pass. And that is part of the jackpot too. The ability to leave something meaningful behind. Not necessarily fame. Not necessarily fortune. Meaning. Purpose. Impact. The things that survive long after possessions disappear. Now the picture becomes clearer. The jackpot includes your time. Your choices. Your potential. Your experiences. Your relationships. Your growth. Your ability to impact others. Your opportunity to create a meaningful story. And suddenly the title makes sense. Congratulations. You have won the jackpot. The money you are receiving is not measured in dollars. It is measured in moments, in opportunities, in possibilities, in memories, in love, in growth, in life itself. Every sunrise is another payment. Every breath is another deposit. Every day is another chance to invest wisely. The question is not how much money you possess. The question is how you spend the fortune already being given to you. Because one day, the payments stop. The account closes. The final chapter arrives. And when that moment comes, nobody wishes they had spent more time worrying. Nobody wishes they had delayed happiness longer. Nobody wishes they had ignored the people they loved. Instead, they wish they had lived more fully, loved more deeply, dreamed more boldly, appreciated more completely. And perhaps that's why you're hearing this message today. Maybe not by accident. Maybe as a reminder. A reminder that your life is not ordinary. A reminder that your opportunities are not guaranteed. A reminder that the greatest wealth was never hidden in a vault. It was hidden in plain sight. Inside every day you've been given. Inside every possibility still ahead. Inside every moment that remains unwritten. So congratulations. The winning numbers have already been drawn. The ticket is already yours. The jackpot is already being delivered. And the most incredible part? Tomorrow morning, when you open your eyes, another payment arrives. Another chance. Another chapter. Another opportunity to use your fortune wisely. Because the greatest jackpot in existence was never money. It was the gift of being alive. And today, that gift is still yours. Congratulations. The jackpot is still being delivered. Even now. As these words reach you, the clock is moving forward. Seconds are passing. Moments are being added to your account. And whether you realize it or not, something extraordinary is happening. Because every second you live creates two possible futures. One future is built by accident. The other is built by intention. Most people never notice the difference. They wake up. Follow routines. Repeat habits. Wait for something exciting to happen. Wait for luck. Wait for opportunity. Wait for the perfect moment. And before they know it, years have disappeared. But a small number of people discover a secret. A secret so powerful that it completely changes the course of their lives. They stop waiting. They start creating. And that's when the jackpot begins multiplying. Imagine two people receiving the exact same amount of money. One spends everything immediately. The other invests it wisely. 10 years later, their lives look completely different. The same principle applies to time. Every person receives 24 hours. No more. No less. Yet some people transform those hours into remarkable lives. Others let them vanish unnoticed. The difference is not talent. The difference is not luck. The difference is awareness. The awareness that every day is a blank check. Every choice is an investment. Every action is a vote for the future you want. And here's where the story becomes even more surprising. Most people believe success arrives all at once. They imagine dramatic breakthroughs, massive opportunities, life-changing moments. But reality works differently. The greatest transformations often begin invisibly. A single decision, a single habit, a single conversation, a single act of courage. Tiny actions, repeated consistently, until one day the results become impossible to ignore. Think about a seed. When planted underground, nothing appears to happen. Days pass. Weeks pass. Sometimes even longer. Yet beneath the surface, roots are growing. Preparation is happening. Strength is developing. Then suddenly, one day, growth becomes visible. People call it an overnight success. But the truth is different. The success began long before anyone noticed. The same thing may be happening in your life right now. You may feel stuck. You may feel unnoticed. You may feel as though nothing is changing. But invisible progress is still progress. Roots are still growing. Lessons are still being learned. Strength is still being developed. And often the greatest breakthroughs happen immediately after people are tempted to quit. That is why persistence is one of the most valuable forms of wealth. Anyone can continue when everything is easy. Anyone can continue when results appear quickly. The real test comes during uncertainty. The real test comes when progress cannot yet be seen. The real test comes when faith must replace evidence. And that brings us to another hidden treasure inside your jackpot. Resilience. The ability to keep moving forward despite difficulty. Think about the strongest people you know. They didn't become strong because life was easy. They became strong because life was difficult. Every challenge forced growth. Every obstacle developed character. Every setback revealed hidden strength. If life had been easier, they would actually be weaker. It's a strange truth. The storms we wish to avoid often become the experiences that prepare us for greatness. Imagine an eagle. When storms arrive, most birds fly away. They seek shelter. They hide. But eagles do something different. They use the storm. The powerful winds that frighten other birds become tools that help the eagle rise higher. The very thing that pushes others down lifts the eagle upward. And perhaps the same opportunity exists for you. Maybe the challenge you're facing is not there to destroy you. Maybe it's there to elevate you. Maybe the obstacle is not the end of the story. Maybe it's the beginning of a stronger chapter. Because hidden inside every struggle is a lesson. Hidden inside every lesson is growth. Hidden inside growth is transformation. And transformation is one of the most valuable rewards in life. Now let's talk about something even more shocking. Regret. If there is one thing people fear near the end of life, it isn't failure. It's regret. Failure can teach. Failure can strengthen. Failure can be overcome. Regret is different. Regret is the realization that an opportunity existed but was never taken. A dream existed but was never pursued. A conversation needed to happen but never occurred. A risk needed to be taken but fear won. That is why courage matters. Not because courage guarantees success, but because courage prevents the pain of wondering, what if? What if I had tried? What if I had believed in myself? What if I had started sooner? What if I had trusted my potential? Those questions haunt people far longer than failure ever does. And that is why your jackpot includes something priceless. The ability to begin again. No matter where you are. No matter how many mistakes you've made. No matter how much time you feel you've lost. You can still choose a different direction. You can still write a new chapter. You can still change the story. The past may explain you, but it does not define you. Read that again. The past may explain you, but it does not define you. Some of the most remarkable stories in history began after failure. After rejection. After disappointment. After heartbreak. After loss. The world loves to celebrate victories. But victories are often born from moments nobody sees. Moments when someone decides not to give up. Moments when someone chooses hope instead of surrender. Moments when someone gets back up after falling. Those moments are where greatness begins. And perhaps that is why you're here. Maybe life has been challenging recently. Maybe you've questioned yourself. Maybe you've wondered whether your efforts matter. Maybe you've wondered whether things will improve. If so, remember this. The story is not finished. The chapter you're in is not the ending. The page you're reading is not the conclusion. Many of the greatest stories ever told looked hopeless in the middle. Only later did people realize they were witnessing the setup for something extraordinary. Which leads to another revelation. Your future self is watching. Not literally, but metaphorically. The version of you that exists years from now. Stronger. Wiser. More experienced. That future version of you is depending on the decisions you make today. Every action sends a message forward through time. Every choice shapes what becomes possible. Every habit builds the person you're becoming. And the future is built one day at a time. Not all at once. Not instantly. One decision. One effort. One step. One day. That is how extraordinary lives are created. Now imagine something remarkable. Imagine meeting yourself 10 years from now. What would that future version say? Would they thank you for the choices you're making today? Would they be proud of your courage? Would they appreciate your persistence? Would they be grateful you didn't quit? It's a powerful question. Because suddenly today matters more. Suddenly this moment becomes valuable. Suddenly the jackpot becomes real. Not someday. Now. Because life is happening now. Not tomorrow. Not next year. Not after everything becomes perfect. Now. The conversation you need to have. The dream you need to pursue. The skill you need to learn. The risk you need to take. The gratitude you need to express. The love you need to share. The life you need to live. All of it begins now. And here's the truth many people spend years discovering. Perfection is not required. Progress is. You don't need all the answers. You need movement. You don't need certainty. You need action. You don't need guarantees. You need courage. The road appears as you walk it. The next step becomes visible after the previous one is taken. That is how growth works. That is how success works. That is how transformation works. And perhaps most importantly, that is how the jackpot grows. Every time you choose growth over comfort. Every time you choose courage over fear. Every time you choose gratitude over complaint. Every time you choose action over procrastination. The value of your life increases. Not in money, but in meaning. Not in possessions, but in purpose. Not in status, but in fulfillment. And that is a wealth that cannot be measured. Because there are people with millions who feel poor. And there are people with very little who feel rich. The difference is rarely what they own. The difference is how they see. How they think. How they live. How they appreciate. That is why awareness is one of the greatest gifts of all. The moment you recognize your jackpot, everything changes. Ordinary mornings become opportunities. Ordinary people become treasures. Ordinary moments become unforgettable. Life stops feeling like something happening to you. Life becomes something happening through you. And suddenly the world looks different. The future looks different. You look different. Because the jackpot was never outside of you. It was within you all along. Waiting to be recognized. Waiting to be appreciated. Waiting to be used. So if part 1 revealed that you had won the jackpot, then part 2 reveals something even more important. You are responsible for how it is spent. Every day. Every hour. Every decision. Every moment. The fortune is in your hands. And whether it becomes a masterpiece or a missed opportunity depends on what you choose next. Because the greatest reward isn't simply receiving the jackpot. The greatest reward is discovering what you're capable of doing with it. And the most exciting part? The story is still unfolding. The next chapter has not been written. The next victory has not been revealed. The next breakthrough has not been seen. The next opportunity has not yet arrived. But it is coming. And when it does, you'll be ready. Because now you know the truth. You know what the jackpot really is. You know where the treasure exists. You know why every day matters. And you know that the greatest wealth in the world is not something you find. It is something you build. One moment at a time.